Hi everyone, you're joining us here today on another episode of Youth Lankans, hosted by the Sri Lankan's newspaper. As some of you may already know, the Sri Lankan's newspaper is the only Sri Lankan community newspaper in New Zealand, distributed throughout all the major cities of the country. On today's episode of Youth Lankans, we have invited a talented young lady who goes by the name Amodini Jayawardenna. She's both talented in music and she's also a music practitioner of music therapy. So, Amodini, before we start our interview, we'd like to welcome you to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Okay, so Amodini, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your life in Sri Lanka with your family, and why did you move to New Zealand, and what are you doing right now?
Yeah, so I grew up in Sri Lanka. I was born there, and then I grew up there till I was 13. And then I'm not really sure exactly why we moved, but I think it was probably mostly because of the Civil War, and it was like 2 years after, and things were a bit not very certain in Sri Lanka. So my parents decided to move over here. And so my mum and dad and my younger brother, he's 7 years younger than I am, we all moved here. And then, I grew up in Auckland. I did high school in Auckland and then went off to Dunedin for my undergrad and then Wellington for my master's. And then now I'm in beautiful sunny Northland practicing music therapy.
So when did you move here and which year was that? How old were you then?
Yeah, I was 13 and I think that was end of 2010.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you moved here as a teenager. So that means you were not too young. So you probably had some understanding about the society as a teenager. And even after moving to New Zealand, you moved around a bit between cities. So how were these transitions? How did you cope with it? Was it challenging for you, or was it easier for you to adapt?
I think when you're a kid, you are very resilient and you kind of adapt as you go along. But reflecting on it now as an adult, I think there were definitely some tricky bits to it, being a teenager, coming into a whole new environment. And, but I did, speak English in Sri Lanka and learn English in Sri Lanka because, it's just how it is in Sri Lanka because of the massive colonial history. So the language barrier wasn't there when I moved here, but the cultural differences were massive, and I'm, I can't really pinpoint like the tricky and challenging bits from when I was a teenager, but I can reflect on how it felt being a bit like an outsider, but then like slowly, over the 5 years of high school, you find your friend groups, you find the things that you're really interested in, and then you connect in that way with the people in those environments. But then going to Dunedin was my choice. I really wanted to go as far away from my parents as possible because I felt like I had a lot more stretching and learning to do outside of being so close to my mum and dad and my brother. So Dunedin was great. I really loved it. I made lots of friends there, had lots of fun, and grew a lot. And then Wellington is where the master's program is for music therapy. And so didn't really have much of a choice in that matter. So I had to go to Wellington, but I loved Wellington because it's such a vibrant city with so much music and arts. And then coming up here was again more or less a career choice as well. After I finished my master's, the work here really aligned with my values and where I wanted to grow as a practitioner as well. So I came up here to do that. And I really love it here because the weather really suits, I guess, what I like. I like the warmth. Maybe it's the Sri Lankan in me that I just, the cold makes me like shrivel up. But the warmth is lovely. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also feel that Wellington has a more vibrant contemporary music scene compared to Auckland. I can see that too. Speaking of music, why did you choose the path of music? Have you always been passionate about it?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing the piano, and my mum recognized that I really love singing, and did a lot of performing arts, a lot of choir, a lot of shows and whatnot when I was a kid. And then when I moved here to Auckland, I did a lot of choir as well through school, and that was like my main involvement in music throughout my teen years. But I think, it's really your first, I guess maybe, you don't think music you can use your passions to be a career, as you become an adult. So I didn't really consider it at all when I did my undergrad. And then like after I'd finished, I was like, I actually don't know what I want to do, which I think a lot of people feel after doing a bachelor's. And then my mum kind of advised me on like which way to go. And she, music has been, I guess, like a big part of my life, a big part of my identity. And and then I looked into, mum suggested music therapy, and then I looked into where I can study it and how to become one. And Victoria was the next step. And so, because I knew I wanted to be in a career where I could work with people and learn from people and like share stories and grow in that way, as well as, have music be part of it. And this is like best of both worlds. Being a music therapist, I get to do all those things.
So when you say, well, you learned music academically, the idea I get is that academic music is probably classical music. So are you really a classical musician, or have you considered about other genres, and what is your choice? Why would you choose a certain genre?
Yeah, so I mean, in high school when I came to New Zealand, the choir at my high school at Epsom Girls was a classical choir. So there was a lot of classical music that we sang from all sorts of different places in the world, different languages. But once I think if I was being true to myself in those moments, classical music wasn't my pulling. But when I went to uni, Otago Uni offers a contemporary music stream as well as a classical music. So I chose contemporary. And so I chose contemporary performance with my voice being my main instrument, and then studio production as well. So I could, make the end product as well that goes out into the world. But yeah, I'm definitely more drawn to contemporary styles of music, a lot of soul, a lot of blues, R&B. That would be my preferred genres of music that I like really, I'm really drawn to. But yeah, not to say that classical music doesn't have a place in my heart, because it was such a big part of me growing up, and playing piano as well. That's all Western classical music. So I have an appreciation for it, but it's not where I'm drawn to naturally.
Yeah, so you are, as I talked about earlier, you are a practitioner of music therapy. So most of us may not know what music therapy is, and what is music therapy, and what is your involvement with it?
Yeah, so music therapy, I like to describe it as, lots of people know what talk therapy is like, or have an understanding of what that might look like. So what I would say music therapy is instead of the talking being the main way that therapy happens or the therapeutic things happen, the music becomes the leading and the guiding form of I guess, the medium of getting therapy or receiving therapy and growing in therapy. So yeah, it's a very purposeful use of music to address areas of growth that the person is interested in or that you've observed as the therapist would be great to expand into and grow into.
So you basically, your audience or the people who get help from you are usually are they people with mental disorders or mental problems or neurodivergent people? Are they the kind of people you work with?
Right now, I work mostly with around mental health and disability and neurodiversity, but music therapy goes right across the lifespan, all the way from like neonatal units where there are premature babies and music therapists work there, and all the way to, you know, children in schools and teenagers, as well as adult mental health, and also end-of-life care in hospice as well, and also a lot of neurologic music therapy, which is around Parkinson's and also like post-stroke rehabilitation as well. So there's a lot of variety in the work that music therapists do, but right now my work is with around mental health, disability and neurodiversity, and also trauma as well.
So well, I think you are doing actually a very noble cause, using your talents for something like that. So working with such people, neurodivergent people and the mentally challenged people, how do you feel about it? Is it challenging or do you feel satisfied about it?
I think, you know, with any job, there's challenging bits and then there's really rewarding and meaningful moments as well. And I think there's this impression of therapy that, you know, you come to someone and they fix you, I guess, you know, there's this feeling of like someone's going to fix you. But therapy for me and the way I practice is a lot more like tuakana tena. So, you know, you learn from each other, you grow from each other, and it is very much rooted in the relationships that you create with the people. So whether it's a challenging moment or a moment of celebration or a moment of growth, all those things are done in relationship and with a lot of care and compassion. So yeah, in amongst all those things, I am very grateful that I'm in this profession. I get a lot out of it. I learn a lot from the people I work with, whether they're like teeny tiny little kids or teenagers or adults. I learn a lot from them, and I hope that they're also growing by being with me in music therapy as well.
So speaking of getting into more details about music therapy, this is the music therapy week, the World Music Therapy Week, which started yesterday, which was April 10th. And so what's your involvement in the music therapy week, and in the context of New Zealand, what's the New Zealand's context in this music therapy week?
Yeah, well, in my involvement in it is, you know, doing a lot of advocacy and a lot of awareness, doing things like this, but also supporting with coordinating different events around Northland. And of course, you know, in my day-to-day, I will celebrate World Music Therapy Week with the people I work with, and that can be, you know, that can look like sharing a song or gifting music to people to celebrate this awesome week. But in terms of Aotearoa, lots of music therapists around the country are doing different things to advocate for music therapy, to fundraise for music therapy so that more people have access to it. And also a lot of people are just celebrating by being involved in music and playing music together. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening right across, but you can find everything that's happening across the week as far as I'm aware, on the New Zealand Music Therapy website, there's all the events that are happening right across Aotearoa. So if you do want to get involved, there are opportunities.
Yeah, I'll try that. And we have like 4 more days start for the music therapy week. And so it seems that it's more than just playing music. There's something more activities involved around music therapy. So what are your other? Do you like to share any other music achievements of yours?
Well, I think I like hung up my cap as being a performer a little while ago. I think, yeah, I think I'm very comfortable and confident in my role as a music therapist that I haven't really dabbled in being a performer in a long time. So I don't have any celebrations of those kinds at the moment, but yeah, I mean, I've been in bands while I was in uni, and that was really fun. And I've performed in different things and been involved in different musical shows and things like that. But at the moment, it's, my practice has become very much the main component of, my musical involvement at the moment. It takes up a lot of time and a lot of energy. So I often, I'm quite fulfilled being a music therapist. So I haven't really felt the need to branch out quite yet. But I think at some point there might be some room for being a performer, being a musician in that way as well.
So yeah, that means like I was going to ask you whether you have any expectations of maybe catering to a larger mainstream audience with your music talents. And but you said you are satisfied at the moment. So you mean do you have any plans at all to actually? I mean, we as Sri Lankans would be proud to see a Sri Lankan girl becoming a world famous musician. So do you have any expectations like that in at least in a corner of your mind somewhere?
I think there's a teeny part of me that would, that wouldn't be so opposed to being a musician, but I think a lot of my interests lie in music, like being involved in music with people, which is different to being a performer. And I think there is, aspects of being a performer is being with people in music, but it's very performative and it's very musician or performer audience kind of relationship, whereas I really enjoy the alongside musicking with people a lot more. But it doesn't mean that, in somewhere down the line that there might be some space for it. But right now I'm just very new to the profession as well. I've just got my full registration because last year I was a provisionally registered music therapist. So I'm in my second year of practice, which means I'm still a baby and as a practitioner. So I've still got a lot of enthusiasm, which a lot of people do as they go along as well. But I've got a lot of enthusiasm as a practitioner. So that's feeding my soul a lot at the moment. And I'm hoping to do a lot more research around music therapy and also like my master's research was based around reconnecting and relearning my Sri Lankan culture and seeing how that impacts my music therapy practice as a student. So, and I'm really passionate about reconnecting and bringing my Sri Lankan values and ways of being into my practice. And I'd like to do more research around what that looks for other people from other cultures as well. And that might be, ethnic cultures, but also all the other different kinds of cultures that exist. So yeah, but
So
not
you-
right now, but soon, hopefully.
Yes, and we wish you good luck for that too. And you came into a very interesting point that how you are going to blend the Sri Lankan culture with your music therapy practice. Would you like to elaborate a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, obviously Sri Lankan culture is so diverse. It's a tiny, teeny island, but it's got so many different ways of being amongst the island. When you go to the coast and when you come to Colombo is like a whole different thing, and when you go to Kandy and Jaffna, and of course with the history of colonization plus the Civil War, there's been a lot of disruptions and a lot of change that has happened in a very short period of time. And so when I mean
a lot of events in a very small country.
Yeah, geographically we're not far apart, and I think, growing up, like I was born into when the Civil War was happening, so were my parents. And so you didn't know any different than to, have those, the anxieties around a civil war just part of your day to day. And so I guess my Sri Lankan identity is very much rooted in the things I learned from my family growing up in Sri Lanka, but also what it came to be when I moved here as well. And something that I'm really proud of, and I think my family is also very proud of, is the fact that I can speak Sinhala fluently, and which was really handy when I went to Sri Lanka in the last summer. So felt like a bit of a local. I think they could tell I wasn't, but felt very much part of Sri Lanka, being able to speak the language. But yeah, incorporating it into my practice comes a lot from what I'd grown up in with my family, and a lot of music was part of it, a lot of dancing was part of it, and a lot of food and a lot of hospitality, and that like welcoming energy that Sri Lankan people just have. And that's very much something that I like to lean into when I'm practicing. And I think of people coming into music therapy and working with me as them coming into my home, and I think about my mum and my dad and my aunties and uncles and my grandma, and how they welcome people into their home with so much hospitality and so much openness as well, and so excited as well to have them in your home. And so that's the kind of energy I like to have when people come into my space, and to make them feel really welcome and not judged, or really safe as well, as much as I can make it in the spaces and all the different spaces I work in. And I like to try my best to share who I am at the start and as I go through as well, so that it's not a one-way thing. Therapy can often be seen as this thing where you go in and you say everything or you do everything, and it's a lot of hard work, and it is how therapy is. But also having that, again, like coming back to that, like learning and growing from each other. Sharing who I am is a big part of them also being able to trust and connect with me as a therapist. So yeah, I mean, there are so many ways I bring it in, but I think it's more goes back to like way of being rather than like specific things that I insert into my day.
So apart from music, what are your other interests?
Northland is so sunny and so great, and it's got all these beaches that I couldn't help myself but learn how to surf last year, and that has been something that's just I really treasure up here in Northland. There's so many beautiful beaches that you can go to. You really can't pick on which one to go to on a good day. But and then I was inspired to do a surf trip last summer as well, and I surfed in Sri Lanka, and I went to the south of Sri Lanka and surfed there, and I went to the Maldives as well. Didn't get to surf there, but then went to Bali and surfed there as well. So did a bit of a surf trip that was inspired by, I guess, learning to surf in Northland. So and the ocean is a big part of how I like connect with I guess myself, as well as I also like home, the sense of home, because I grew up going to the beach often, and I was a swimmer my whole childhood. So so it makes me feel like when I'm in the water swimming, I'm reminded of like all the beach trips that I went with my mum and dad when I was a kid, and also like, you know, swimming as a kid in Sri Lanka, that was a big part. I grew up waking up at like ungodly hours in the morning for swim practice, and just makes me feel really connected to myself, and just a really reflective space for me. So I love the ocean, and I go with my friends, so like a lot of water-based activities in Northland because of the winterless north and the beautiful beaches. So
So winterless, Northland doesn't get cold in winter?
I mean,
but maybe not much.
Not much. I mean, if you saw what it looks like right now.
I mean, if a Sri Lankan can survive the winter, it must be more.
Absolutely. I mean, coming from Wellington is unreal. The winters are just like, you know, sharp. I would describe it as sharp, because you're like getting blown by the wind, and then it's like, you know, icy cold. And Dunedin was the same, like super cold. But I think I was so much younger that I was like, I didn't really care that it was cold. But when I was doing my master's, I was like, this is not the place I can like live for long term, because I was just freezing all the time. But I mean, it's supposed to be autumn in Northland, but I will be going to the beach today because it's just sunny and beautiful and clear skies. But I mean, we're all still wearing shorts and t-shirts up here. So if that's any indication, I know Auckland can be warm sometimes, but temperamental. But Auckland
is quite funny these days. It's really can't decide whether it's cold or warm.
That's my brother, because my brother lives in Auckland. He's finishing uni this year, so and my parents live in Melbourne now, so we're all just like spread apart. But my dad was recently complaining about how Melbourne has like 5 different weathers in one day, and one day is 30 degrees, the other day is 19, and then my brother's always he loves golf, so he's like waiting for a sunny day to like go out. So, but you can never predict a sunny day in Auckland. So
so to end our conversation, is there any message you'd like to give to our viewers, especially young people like you who are talented and who want to use their talents for a generous purpose like what you are doing? What's your message to them?
I guess like, you know, when you're like a teenager or a kid, I think you're really great at finding the things that you really love, and you're really good at enjoying and having fun with it and being playful with it. And so I guess like if there's anything I can say to young Sri Lankans coming out of school or going through school and deciding what they want to do, I guess just to like lean into your passions, because I think that's the recipe for some really meaningful moments in life. Because if you can really use your passions and feel that energy you feel for it into something that you can sustain a life with, it pays off. It really pays off. And I think, you know, I think there's this pressure to go to uni and you know, get the degree and all those things. Not to say they're not important, but but there are also so many other ways of feeling fulfilled in life, and just to lean into your passions and take your time and space if your family allows you to, and I think it will pay off in the long run.
Okay, Amodini, thank you very much for joining us today on this discussion. And In these busy times, of course. Thank you very much for taking some time off your busy schedule. And from the Sri Lankans team, we'd like to wish you all the very best for what you're doing right now and for your future as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.